Most tourists and most residents of the city of New York don't even know what the Bronx has to offer, and the Bronx has lots of hidden treasures. You don't find this in books about New York City. They concentrate on Manhattan. Visitors come to Manhattan and they usually don't see anything else, even if they come several times. Residents of Manhattan hardly stray outside of the island in which they're located. Yet the Bronx has loads of things that they can see. Museums, natural areas, beautiful architecture, wonderful friendly people, nice restaurants. Why leave that out of the experience of going to the city of New York? If you go and visit the Bronx Zoo and the New York Botanical Garden, you are practically visiting other parts of the world, all within the circumscribed space of 400 to 800 acres. There are animals from every continent on the face of the earth in the Bronx Zoo, and you can come very close to them, and in some cases face to face with them. In the New York Botanical Garden, you find the great conservatory there that has plants from the rainforests and plants from the desert that you could actually go in their own natural habitat and see them. But you also can come back at different times of the year and see on the grounds the beautiful flowers that bloom in different times of the year. You could stand in the gorge of the Bronx River and you could be overawed at the power of the river as it flows through that gorge. And interestingly enough, the Botanical Garden also has the last part of the forest that once covered all of New York City. You could walk there and be back at the times of the American Indians.
It is stunning. A visit to the Botanical Garden uplifts the mind and refreshes the soul, particularly after the hustle and bustle of Midtown Manhattan. My own introduction to the Bronx was with beautiful Wave Hill. Wave Hill is an estate which was given to the city of New York in 1960. This estate has two lovely mansions, field and forest, and a wonderful user-friendly greenhouse.
There are so many hidden treasures in the Bronx. There are museums that you can visit. Most people don't know the Bronx has its own art museum. The Bronx has a museum of Judaica, the Dörfler Judaica Museum. The Bronx has a museum of maritime history. The Bronx has a museum of Bronx history. The Bronx has a museum of Greek, Etruscan, and Roman art. The Bronx has the real New York Little Italy in the area around Belmont and Arthur Avenue. The Bronx has a little bit of New England in City Island. The Bronx has its Grand Boulevard, the Grand Concourse, that is designed after the Champs-Élysées in Paris and is flanked by some of the great Art Deco architecture of the 1930s.
Some of the other destinations are beautiful Orchard Beach, which is really the Riviera of New York City. It's over a mile of white sand, free to all, so user-friendly, overlooking beautiful, beautiful Long Island Sound.
The Bronx has people whose origin is from every continent on the face of the earth.
We have people from every continent. We can experience their cultures by eating at wonderful restaurants, from through City Island and New England style seafood.
People who live here, they are very friendly. Most people who have come to the Bronx from outside of the Bronx are surprised to find how friendly and how warm the people of the Bronx really are.
I arrived in the Bronx about 7 years ago, and I, very similar to the 56 million visitors who come every year to New York, knew very, very little about the northern part of New York City. I began an exploration which has really never stopped. I discovered wonderful places. My friends started asking me if I would please share with them some of my discoveries and perhaps put it into a book. But there was just so much to see and so much to do and so much history in the Bronx that there was no way in the world that I could cover it adequately. I then started reading about the history of the Bronx, and that led me to our Borough historian's books, Lloyd Ultan. And I was so taken with all that I learned that I was convinced that if there was any way that Lloyd would agree, he was the person that I wanted as my co-author.
I was approached by Shelley Olson. Interestingly enough, we met on a bus. She was seeking me out. She had recently moved to the Bronx, and she wanted to know what was in the Bronx. She was trying to explore and could not find any guidebook that could tell her what was around. She finally convinced me to cooperate with her in writing a guidebook to the Bronx, the very first guidebook ever printed that's devoted entirely to the Bronx.